Okay, so I guess it's been about 2 or 3 years since the last time I made the last Pinnacle game profiler tutorial thing. I don't know. I had no idea that people were going to watch it. First of all, um, so I'm making a new one because one, I myself was initially happy with the video because when I watched it, I couldn't hear myself over the music, and then I read comments about people saying they couldn't hear me over the music. And then I had other comments saying that certain things weren't explained in detail. So I'm going to address those two. There was another group that said the video was too long, but it's a tutorial video. I mean, if it's not long and trying to explain something in depth and you need something in 8 minutes, you've come to the wrong place. But I'm basically going to try to make this as clear and concise as possible. So basically, if you want to start setting up your profile and you want to hit Game Profiler after you boot up Pinnacle Game Profiler, once you have a game profile set up, if you have a game profile set up, you can obviously go to Edit Configurations, but you most likely won't. So you hit New, and if you don't have one, you can either press this button to select a executable file from your computer. Pinnacle Game Profile works with other things besides games, but you generally want to select a game. You can also select Steam games by selecting the Steam icon and selecting a Steam game. But I already have one set up. It's called Binding of Isaac, but I haven't made any configurations to it. So let's get started. So by hitting Edit Configurations, it'll take you to the controller configuration screen. You have your toolbox, but honestly, this is useless because a lot of stuff that the toolbox does, you can do with your left and right clicks, as I'm about to show you. So you can assign anything to any of the buttons when using Pinnacle. Like, I don't have to assign the left arrow to the left D-pad. I can right click, do a quick command, and assign P to it. Now P is on the left D-pad and the joystick button under the left analog stick. Obviously, this is not optimal, so you don't want to do that. But basically, hitting right click will allow you to do a quick assignment on a key on your controller. So basically, it will allow you to do a quick assignment on your controller with a key on your keyboard. Left click will allow you to do things like standard commands. Standard commands are basically macros. If you left click and click on standard command, you can go into it and you can name your command, and then you can do edit steps. Edit steps it will basically allow you to do a macro. Let's say you're playing Street Fighter 4, you're a scumbag, and you want to like quick map Dudley's machine gun jab because you can't do a half quarter circle forward. So what you could do is you could either do presses, releases, or you can do presses, holds, or releases for your macros. Now, if you want to emulate button presses like you normally would, you want to go to press. If you want to do holds, like if you're doing charge moves, then you want to go to hold. And then release is obviously when you want to release a button. Generally, you can do button presses. You can also do repeats for button presses, and so wherever you want to go slow or fast. But there's actually a quicker command for doing that in Pinnacle. It's called rapid fire. I'll talk about it a little later. But let's say you're Dudley. You call yourself a gentleman, but you really want to do dirty things apparently, and you want to macro his super move. Well, you want to macro a special move of his to one button. So let's say you want to do half quarter circle forward in a punch. So to do that, you assign the left button to both the activate and deactivate states. Not left button, not left button. Gotta remove that. What you want to assign is the left key, which is down here. Not mouse left. When you eventually find the left key, if I can find it, there we, no, 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 no. There we go. When you find the left arrow, you can assign it to an activate and deactivate state. You can do down on the down arrow and assign that to a deactivate and deactivate state. Do right and do activate and deactivate it. So left, down, right. And then you want to do a punch. Now normally I would try to do down left or left down, but you can't really do that on a keyboard since you only have 4 keys. So we're gonna hit the P key for a punch, and that should be enough to activate the map, to activate Dudley's machine gun jab move if you wanted to map it to one button, which is pretty lazy. You can hit OK to save it, but I'm not going to save it. So I'm going to hit cancel. Now if you left click, you can also do things like compound commands, which basically consists of either double commands or edit cycle commands. Cycle commands are basically like single commands, but only they happen repeatedly. This works the same way as the single command, like the single command props. You can set up macros in the same manner. I'm not going to go through it again because it's the same process. But instead, I'm going to show you what double commands do. Double commands will basically allow you to assign a single button 2 different commands, depending on whether you press or hold it or double tap. So I'm going to do double tap. I'm going to quick assign this A and quick assign this S. You can press any key to fire to test it out. So if I press this once, it does a single press. You do this twice, it goes to S. You can decrease the sensitivity of it. See, I pressed it twice, but it only picked up on a single press now. I had to deliberately slow down my double press in order to get that double press there. Now if you want to increase the sensitivity, you can go all the way up, and it picks up as soon as I do a double press. Obviously that's not optimal for action oriented games, but it is optimal for other games like RPGs or whatever. And it's also good for the Binding of Isaac. But I don't want to do that. And as I was saying before, you can also quick assign commands to any of the other buttons on your controller. You can also do commands on your analog sticks. If you click set up joystick, you can do things like map it to the arrow keys, D keys, mouse, spring, map to the full keyboard, which is really complicated. Like if you do that, like you have to do double motions for every key on your keyboard, which is not really optimal, to be honest with you. It's really confusing. And unless you're playing StarCraft or something, it's not. I wouldn't bother. Honestly, it'd probably be easier just to use a keyboard and a mouse and do this. You can also invert to vertical and horizontal axis if you want to do that. You can also right click and edit joystick commands, and you can edit each of the 4 analog commands individually by either doing quick commands or left clicking it, and you can do standard commands or compound commands on here too, which is actually more useful in case you do want to set up macro commands. You'll notice when you do compound commands here, you also have axis commands. And axis commands are basically what I showed you earlier, like setting up your axis commands to be mapped to the the WASD keys or whatever. And cycle and double commands are basically what I showed you earlier. You can also do individual commands to the joystick by right clicking and pressing a button. Now the left joystick is equal to the L key, not the left key, the L key. You can remove it by single clicking or left clicking and hitting remove assignment. For the regular buttons, besides these, well, actually, you can set these up to be shift mode buttons too, but you probably don't want to set up your D-pad to be a shift mode button unless you're playing like a shooter game or something, you know? But, let's say you're not playing FPS, and instead you're, playing an action-oriented game in which the D-pad or the left analog stick is used for movement. So that kind of leaves you with the traditional action buttons, as I like to call them, as potential buttons for your shift keys. Now, I already have one set up as a shift blue key because earlier I recorded this tutorial for half an hour and my microphone wasn't on. So that makes me a dumbass. But now my microphone is on, so I'm going to show you how to do a shift command. So let's say you want to make your shoulder button, your L1 shoulder button, a shift button. What you would do is you would hit the left arrow, go to behavior modification and shift button mode. I already have this shift blue. You can do shift red, green, yellow. Honestly, the colors don't matter, but the colors do matter is in the fact that whatever color you choose, you can shift it over to that particular profile when you hold down that button. So holding down L1 while shifted blue will give me blue commands. As you can see, the commands changed. And letting go of that will go to the unshifted mode, which is normal, which is your normal profile without holding down L1. Left clicking on this also reveals other behavior modifications like applying force feedback to your button presses. You can apply a rumble or a ramp effect. I guess the ramp effect is increasing vibration sensitivity for the duration that you're pressing the button. You can do a sticky button, which is basically the Pinnacle mapping software holding the button down for you. Rapid fire is the button, was basically what I was talking about earlier. It's basically Pinnacle's way of doing, basically it's making your button a turbo button. Whatever button you decide, it becomes a turbo button. And Enable Sniper Assistant will basically give you auto aim on the button that you press, or at least help you aim better. I don't know, I've never really used it. I don't really play FPSs like that. I own one on my computer, is BioShock Infinite, and I haven't played it that much. So DirectX Override basically reduces the latency between your controller and the computer. Normally what a lot of mapping software does is that it has to read the input from your controller and then redirect that to the keyboard and then redirect that to the computer. The DirectX override kind of bypasses that. I don't like using it because it kind of royally messed me up about 2 years ago and had to like reinstall Pinnacle software because my buttons wouldn't read input correctly for some reason. So I suggest you be wary of that. If you're brave enough to mess around with DirectX override, you can do that. I wouldn't, but you can. You can also import and export your configuration in case something happens, like your hard drive crashes and you suddenly lose all your software. So you can export it out by hitting export. You export either as export profile data or export image guide. The difference between either one of them is that export image guide is more universal, so it's not tied to your game like profile data is. And if you export them, image guide data is exported as an IGD, and profile data is exported as a pin. Either way, load them back up will basically give you your configuration back for that game. Well, actually, the profile won't give you the configuration back for your game. The other one, the IGD, will give you configuration back for your controller. So if you have multiple configurations, you can get all of them back with IGD. So that's something to keep in mind. You can also import them in by hitting the import button and looking for either a pin or IGD. Delete configuration obviously deletes your configuration, and new configuration will give you another configuration to mess around with. Clicking help will basically give you everything that I just went over in about 18 minutes. And my controller just fell down. My controller, mouse. Wonderful. But that's pretty much basically it. Hopefully I didn't go through it too fast, but that's pretty much how that works. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Take care.